Call to order the policy committee meeting of Thursday, October 25th. It's now 1 o'clock local time. In attendance, we have Mr. Flynn, Mr. Michaelis is in for Mr. Sullivan, Ms. Edwards is here, and Chair Campbell is also present. Mr. Birch at this point is not in attendance. Craig, can you handle our public involvement announcement?
Yes, all of the AMATS meetings are public meetings. The public is welcome to comment on all the items. If we have a business item, we'll have a presentation by staff or a consultant. At that point, the committee will be given an opportunity to discuss it. Then the public will be given an opportunity to comment. There you go.
Thank you. We have in front of us an agenda. Do we have, Mr. Line, any changes to the agenda you're aware of or would like to propose?
The only thing I wanted to add is I included in your packet, and I have over there, the discussion of the bonds and grant funding. That question had come up at the last policy committee meeting when we talked about this, and so I was just going to fill you in on the answer I got.
So you'll have a little informational
Just
briefing for us at some
quick.
point in the
Yep.
meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, under informational items?
Yeah.
All right. Anybody from the committee have any additional changes? Any objections to the agenda then as presented? Seeing none, we'll move forward with this agenda. We have any minutes this month?
Do not have minutes this month. We don't. As you can see, we don't have a minute taker either. She is out with a family
Okay.
illness. Is in Florida.
Are you recording this?
We are recording it, and I'm taking as diligent notes as I can.
Okay. All right, so moving on to business items, we've got the Anchorage Carbon Monoxide Limited Maintenance Plan is our business item for today. Craig, are you going to talk about that?
I'm going to talk about it as Mr. Morris is out ill.
Okay.
Anybody from AMATS left?
Well, I think it has something to do with the fact that his baseball team is in the World Series, but I'm not saying anything.
Well, if he's rooting for Detroit, I can see why he
No,
would be ill. Oh,
he's rooting for the Giants, so
okay.
that might be the other reason. So, you have the Anchorage CO Limited Maintenance Plan before you. We heard this just a little while ago at your last meeting, so I think you have some idea what we're doing here.
Right.
We're required to do maintenance plans for this particular, the CO in the muni. And we started this in 2004. We started we went from a non-attainment area to a maintenance area.
Right.
And if you show that you're following, dotting the i's and all that sort of stuff and not polluting to the X amount for 10 years, then you're given an opportunity to go to a limited maintenance area. And so that is what this particular item is to make the move to go to the limited maintenance area. The TAC looked at this, blessed it, et cetera. During the course of the public comment, if you look at, get to the right page here, if you look at the first page inside of the plan itself, which is Anchorage CO Limited Maintenance Plan, that says, a note for reviewers of this document, it talks about the air quality staff looked at the number of locations that they had said we would monitor, the monitoring sites, et cetera, and decided, I believe that they were maybe committing to too many, and so they wanted to step back and make sure this was something that we could promise that we were going to do. And so what occurred was they suggested this change. The change is contained in the document, and the air quality staff sent me this new document and said, it's not a real big change, but it is a change, so we should probably put it out for another 30 days. Unfortunately, I did not pay close enough attention to the fact that we're pushing it out for another 30 days, and the reality is that we should not necessarily act on this today if it's determined that this is a significant change and we needed another 30 days. I guess we could have canceled this meeting if I had paid close enough attention, or if the committee thinks we do need that extra 30 days to look at that change. And I will tell you honestly, I kind of rely on Mr. Morris to keep me up to date on this,
Okay.
and Ms. Edwards may have a better base of knowledge on what exactly the change was and whether it's significant or not. But That's kind of where we're
So
standing.
let me see if I can capture then what I think you've said here. We've had it changed, this document was out for a certain comment period. That comment period was supposed to have passed by today. We were supposed to move this document forward for assembly approval in the near future. And we've had a change to the document, and we are now a little bit high-centered as to whether or not we need an additional 30 days or whether we don't, and that's kind of what we need to
That's
discuss
kind of
here.
where we're at. I mean, in the past, we have had documents that were out for public review, and we had a meeting shortly before the end of the public comment period, and we said, well, we haven't heard anything yet that was adverse, and if we don't hear anything in the next 2 or 3 days, we'll go ahead and approve it today, contingent about not hearing anything. So this is a little bit longer time frame than, say, the next 2 or 3 days when the public comment period closes.
So how many comments had we received on this document in the comment period prior to the modification that has now been subsequently released?
we have not received any comments on
Zero
this.
comments?
The only comment we had was the suggestion that we should.
From staff
From
to
staff
modify
saying,
it?
you know,
And how long has it been out for comment right now?
it was released on
It is-
September 13th.
So it's been 5 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so the action before us then potentially is to approve this document to move forward for assembly consideration.
Right.
The other alternative is to delay this for a month and move it forward in November for assembly consideration. Is that?
Well, you know, as you remember, the November and December AMATS meetings are always moved up a week. So this would be November 15th would be your next opportunity to take action on it. So it's a little bit earlier. It's not quite a month, but it is next month.
And so then is the assembly meeting once a month or twice a month at this point?
Usually twice, sometimes 3 times.
Is it working?
Budget time.
Budget time.
Okay.
And you're welcome to fray if you wish.
I got my own issues. Okay, so does the committee have any other questions here of Mr. Lyon, just to kind of set the frame for this before we get into a motion or a discussion formally?
I would actually have one, which
Which
is it precedent that we, if we feel there's been a substantial change, to extend for 30 days, or could we, for example, extend for 14 days? Was there, what,
The language that we have in our policies and procedures, operating agreement, all that sort of stuff, talks about when we have a TIP amendment or an MTP amendment. And if they're substantially different than what has been gone through the public process, you release it for another 30 days. There's no language there on this plan, because this plan is something that, while we look at it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is approved by the Assembly. They're the final decision makers on this. So it's not, quote unquote, necessarily our plan, but obviously we're very much involved in it. So we have not had this come up before us before, this particular item, and say, it's been changed, let's do another X amount of time period.
So I guess we've set the stage now for an interesting discussion on this. So let me ask, is there any public comment about either the plan itself or the comment period or anything else that's kind of been in general discussion here over the last 5 minutes?
don't be shy.
Good shot. Okay. All right. Would anybody, Ms. Edwards, would you like to talk about this? I know you've expressed some concern about it. Can
Yeah.
you give us your DEC or?
I personally, from a DEC perspective, think we should wait to take action on this. While it may appear to be a relatively minor change to the plan, when we put the plan out in September, we said we would be continuing the monitoring network as it is in the existing plan, which currently is a monitoring network with 4 sites. Over the course of the last month, it's become clear that we might want some flexibility with regards to that. That was not brought through the committee process, as public hasn't had a chance to really think about that. But this new language would provide the flexibility to shut down monitoring sites, which would give some flexibility, given budget constraints or resource constraints, to do something different, which may still be protective of monitoring, to make sure we're maintaining our commitments under the Clean Air Act. But I don't view it as a minor change. I actually think that this is a change to the plan. It's something we consulted with EPA on. They believed it needed to be a change to the SIP. And I think we would be safer from a process perspective regulatorily if we, at the local level, gave people time to look at it. I recognize that there may be very few, if any, comments that come in on it. But I would venture to say that this 1 month delay probably isn't going to change the ultimate timing of this final plan all that much.
Would be less than a month though, wouldn't it, if you went to the 15th of November? Or would you propose to kick it off?
I believe that they actually changed the plan up on the website earlier. There was an announcement on the AMATS website about this change, but I'm not sure what date it was posted, but
Well, that'd be the trigger date for the 30
which
days.
might be able to be used as, potentially as a trigger date for this comment period. But it hasn't been a month since that was done.
That's correct, hasn't been a month, I don't remember the exact date, but it's been a little while.
Okay.
So I guess my thought would be that it would seem appropriate to take it up at the next meeting and then forward it on, our recommendation on to the assembly. And that would give folks a little more time to respond to this new item in the plan.
Sounds good to me.
Any other discussion, comments, concerns? So you're not sure if we've been in this secondary comment period for a week or for 2 weeks, but it's probably somewhere in that range.
I believe it's a week.
Been in for a week.
Meeting next
So-
month is on the 15th.
Our meeting's on the 15th, and the assembly meetings are on the,
13th, 27th of November.
so it sounds like we're aiming for the assembly on the 27th then. So we lose 3 weeks on our schedule. Okay.
Well, if we do 30 days, Mr. Chairman, I'm not opposed to it, but let's say for argument's sake that we release this change on the 18th. For 30 days, that puts us to the 17th of November, right?
I was hoping we released it more like on the 14th.
I'm sure you were, Mr. Chairman. I, by the way, am very cognizant of the import of Ms. Edwards' comments. I think following the public process appropriately is absolutely a thing on us. But if for some reason it wasn't the 14th,
So-
looking at a January assembly approval.
So would a motion be appropriate that says that the committee resolves that at least 30 days of publication will be allowed for this document, and at the very next meeting that we basically hold, that we'll take it up at that meeting, assuming that 30 days has occurred prior to. So that means you might have to do it in December.
Second.
I guess I hate to give away time on this thing. My concern is that if we push, I mean, this thing is already this thing. We're talking, I'm trying to think of a way, can we, I'd like to find out when the actual date is, Craig, that we published it, and I'd almost like to schedule our meeting, have an ad hoc meeting or something to the next day to get this thing moving, so that we can catch the first assembly we can. Or conversely, we could tentatively approve it pending no further comments to that date,
We've done that several times. No.
if there's no additional public comment on it, or we can take that route. I don't want to deny people the opportunity to comment on this, but I mean, at the same point in time, I'm thinking,
Get her done?
the people really, I mean, it hasn't really generated a firestorm in the 40 days it's been out there to date. I'm not saying that people might not have comments, and I think following the process is absolutely important, but at the same point, I'd like to try to find a way to expedite this thing. It's already going to be, I mean, how long did it take for the emissions thing to work its way through the system? It seemed like it took forever from my perspective.
Well, you have the option of calling a special meeting.
I guess I can. I don't want to inconvenience everybody, but let's find out what the date is, Craig, and let's see if we can't try to get a sense of that. And if it doesn't fit in with our next meeting appropriately, if Mr. Flynn suggests it's 2 days after our next meeting, then maybe we need to change the meeting or something by a couple days. Is the body amenable to that? Would that work? I mean, subject to everybody's calendar, of course. And maybe just take this up as a special item at that meeting.
I think this would be a delightful topic for my Thanksgiving day, sir. The following week after this meeting.
I might just add, just for the committee as well, that, you know, there is quite a period of time for the state to process this plan and do its public comment period, and there are things that we can do to try and shorten that timeline. We can start our public comment period before the assembly completes its action. Those are things that we've done before. We can try and shorten things up on our legal review on the other end. We've got a pretty standard time frame in here, and this really doesn't appear to be an extremely controversial issue. Package, and from a regulatory perspective, should not be all that complicated. So we may make up some time on the back end of this process as well.
Great. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, not necessarily a motion per se, but it would be useful maybe to have a track changes version of what did change, because I'm reading through it and all I see is,
Allow me to give you my track change version.
oh, you've got it. Very good.
The yellow line at the bottom was replaced with the yellow's text up above.
Okay.
So, so I guess, I'm not sure if we need a motion or not, but what I'm going to recommend is that we postpone action on this item until our next meeting, and our next meeting will be set depending on the comment period that Mr. Lyon detects from his online notice. Is that agreeable to the body?
Sure.
Okay. All right.
I guess then do we need a motion to table the previous motion?
Well, I don't think it went anywhere. Was there a second?
Second.
So, Darren Burke spoke
Yeah,
up before.
I'll withdraw my second.
Good.
Okay, I think the previous motion was withdrawn.
Yes, it was.
Okay, I think that's that then. So anybody that's interested in this item, you've got another 20 days to send your comments to Craig. And then we'll take it up at our next meeting.
Thanks.
Thanks for your explanation, Alice, it was good. No other business items? Do we have any informational reports today, Mr. Lyon? We're going to talk about the bond issues?
Just really quickly. The question was asked at the top of the bond and grant funding. It lists several different Senate district residential payment rehabs, and the question was how those get parceled out. What happened was P&D did a survey, a tour, et cetera, of all these different Senate districts to categorize and judge what were the worst roads and that needed the most help, et cetera, et cetera. And then they came up with the program. That's why, it's not 3,000 or 3 million for each Senate district. It's different needs in different districts. So there is a plan in place that Public Works has with specific roads, et cetera. Unfortunately, Jerry Hansen is not available to give you that the deeper detail, but that's basically it. They
They
came
have
up
a scoring criteria that they use, and they basically went to every single road, and they applied that scoring criteria, and that's how they came up with their priority list.
So they have a list, and they came and asked for the specific money per specific district, so. Again, that's why that's not a total blank number for each one. Hopefully that helps.
Thank you for that explanation.
Okay, thank you.
Can I mention one other thing that I guess I should have added earlier, but it's not a big biggie? As you know, we have a TIP amendment out right now, and I just want to let folks know that I've received approximately about 100 comments related to the bike and ped implementation plans. Basically, they've been asking us to increase the funding in Table 4 for bike plan implementation in years 2013, 2014. So just want to let you be aware that we have those. When this comes back before you, you'll see all those comments, and we'll present this to the TAC to get their recommendation on possible changes if they think those are necessary. You guys will decide what you want to do.
So when does the comment period close on that?
I believe that closes, it closed the 23rd, so it has closed.
So that the TAC will be taking that up at their next
They're
meeting
November
and
1st.
moving forward with their recommendations. Okay. Thank you. So I think that concludes our informational reports. We've got a TAC meeting on the 1st and a policy committee meeting tentatively on the 15th, depending on schedules as discussed. Do we have any other comments from the committee, Mr. Birch? Anything you care to say, Mr. Flynn?
Happy Halloween, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ms. Edwards?
No, thank you.
Mr. McHale? Okay, unless there's any objection, I think I'll adjourn our meeting. Adjourn.